England fans come to terms with the reality that last night wasn't just a dream. It's coming home renditions echoed right across the country as thousands of fans took to the streets to celebrate.
I'm lost for words to describe last night. You know, it's such an amazing feeling.
But it's a calmer affair for Gareth Southgate's team, as it's not over yet. Also tonight, we could all be going on a summer holiday after all. Quarantine rules are dropped in England for the double jabbed. A bumper rise in pensions could be off the cards. The Chancellor hints at backing out of the £3 billion boost.
It's really brilliant, marvellous that you've been able to carry on over this pandemic. They've been wonderful.
Well, ma'am, you're the one who's carried on.
And rolling out the red carpet for a right old royal occasion as the Queen takes a stroll down the cobbles of Corrie.
This is the ITV Evening News with Charlene White.
Good evening. The England squad and their fans have spent the day basking in glory after the team made it through to their first major final since 1966. Their victory over Denmark at Wembley sparked a night of wild celebrations across the country. But as the reality began to sink in, so too did the formidable task ahead. England's opponents, Italy, are unbeaten in 33 matches. Those who faced them before, though, believe it is England's moment. Here's our sports editor, Steve Scott.
The smiles tell their own story. As England's starters rested, the others were put through their paces today. They'd only arrived back at base camp at 3:30 this morning, so this was never going to be a savage session. Of course, there's been much to reflect on. Another history-making performance. A first ever Euros final for England and a first major final since 1966. But as ever, the man who has led them here was already thinking about what happens next. Italy.
They're a very good side. I've thought that for the last couple of years. They've really shown outstanding form. They've got defensive warriors at the back who've been through everything. So it's a great game to look forward to.
While relishing the experience, the players are fully on board with Southgate's strategy.
We've created history, but we don't want to stop here. Enjoy the night, everyone. Enjoy the night.
You lost your voice for 2 seconds at the beginning.
What's wrong with your hair?
It was a landmark match for the number of fans watching, though one inside Wembley, armed with a laser pen, has led to UEFA bringing charges against England. Away from the stadium, the party continued into the early hours. Here in central London and in Manchester, they were getting in on the act too. For England, these down days are just as important as any other part of the build-up to a big match. It's not just about resting tired legs, but it's also an opportunity, without distractions, to focus on what lies ahead. Paul Ince, who captained his country and also played in Italy, believes this is England's moment.
You know, it's a great chance for these young players, you know, to experience what's going to be a magnificent final. And, you know, I've been part of the team that's tried to do that and failed in the semi-final. So, you know, I'm just urging these players on to do the business for us.
Italy take an unbeaten 33-match streak into Sunday's final. They've also had an extra day's rest. Prepare for one last evening of tension and drama. Steve Scott, ITV News, St George's Park.
Well, it was a memorable night for England fans, especially for those inside Wembley itself. There were many special moments both on and off the pitch, and fans have been reflecting today on witnessing a bit of sporting history, as Paul Davis reports.
It was a night fans of the game we invented, after all, are unlikely to forget, particularly those lucky enough to be inside Wembley Stadium. England! England! Among them, NHS frontline medic Kunal Sapat, celebrating here, but a few hours later back at work at Bedford Hospital, where during a break from the wards, he was still reliving the night before.
I'm lost for words to describe last night. You know, it's such an amazing feeling. I thought Germany was special last week, when nothing can compare to winning a semi-final at Wembley with most of the stadium full of England fans.
He says patients and staff are buzzing.
You know, everyone's as excited as I am, but not everyone's as lucky as me to be able to go to the matches.
A contestant for Biggest Smile, a girl who before kick-off had no doubt.
I think it's going to be 3-0 England.
The smile belongs to Belle McNally, who probably should have been somewhere else.
Tell him you bunked off school to come watch a game.
I bunked off school.
Don't tell no one.
Don't tell Farnborough School.
After the final whistle, her commitment to the cause was rewarded. Her hero Mason Mount giving the 10-year-old his match shirt. What a night, and what a memento. Not all the heroes were on the pitch. Sam Astley was given match tickets by his girlfriend, but received a call to donate bone marrow and watch from his hospital bed. Well done you. How difficult a decision was that?
No football game is more important than anyone's life, so being able to give the opportunity to somebody to have a chance at life and give them a bit of hope, is way more important than any football game.
There's a happy and deserved ending to this story. Sponsors who heard about Sam's sacrifice are making sure he will have a place among this lot for Sunday's final. Paul Davis, ITV News.
England may have a home advantage for the final, but for some of the Italy squad, it will also feel very familiar. Midfielder Jorginho plays for Chelsea. Roberto Mancini used to manage Manchester City. And with a huge expat community across the country, the team won't be short of support too, as Sejal Karia reports.
Jorginho can send them into the final.
With his famous hop, skip and shoot technique, Jorginho slotted in the winning penalty against Spain, putting a delirious Italy through to the final.
Done with panache!
The Chelsea midfielder's spot kick style so renowned, at his favourite Italian restaurant near Stamford Bridge, they even serve his meals in the J-jump style, as it's known. And his friend and owner, Erin, is confident it'll be Italy jumping for joy at the end against England.
I can't wait to see Jorginho score another penalty like semi-final with Spain. It's coming Rome. No, it's coming home. It's coming Rome.
That's what Roberto Mancini will be hoping too. His side now unbeaten in 33 games. Only England stand in the way of the 34th.
But down here, there's Mancini when he came here.
Father Paddy McMahon once gave midnight mass to the Italian manager, then newly appointed boss at Manchester City.
I have to respect Mancini as such. He has done great with their team, but the fact that he came to church here put through my favours a wee bit in him. But I'm sure God will look after the whole lot of them.
Football is not coming home.
Is it coming home?
Of course it is. Everyone knows it is.
Anglo-Italian couple Francesca and Edward might also need watching over on Euro final day.
Gradually, as reality has dawned, the smiles are dropping. And there's a huge possibility that we may be in different households when we watch it.
Yes. No. We definitely won't be able to watch it together. It doesn't have any sense of humour.
We'll find out who's right on Sunday night.
It's come to Rome, not to home.
Sejal Karia, ITV News.
Well, let's return to our sports editor, Steve Scott, who's over at England's training camp in Staffordshire. Steve, this England team seems so focused. What's the mood there today?
I think it's about as good as it gets, Charlene, really. You only have to look at the pictures that we were invited to film of training today. Everyone seems to be having a great time. OK, it was the non-starters, but I can tell you, I have watched many England training sessions at World Cups and Euros over the past decade, and I don't think I've ever seen a happier group. I don't think I've ever seen a more tight-knit group. Now, of course, a lot of this is to do with the culture that the manager, Gareth Southgate, has introduced, but I also think a lot of it's got to do with the personalities of the players themselves. And within this squad, there are some real leaders. People like Henderson, people like Kane, people like Sterling, and they are proving a great influence on the younger members of the group.
Indeed, Steve, thanks very much. Well, you can watch all the action from Sunday's final live here on ITV. Coverage starts at 6:30. And if England win on Sunday, the Prime Minister has left the door open for an emergency bank holiday on Monday. Calls to have Monday off have intensified, with over 220,000 signatures on a petition on the Parliament website. Downing Street has said it will set out any celebrations in case of victory for the England team in due course. But scientists believe that gatherings to watch the football may be behind an increase in COVID infections in men. Data from Imperial College London found men are nearly a third more likely than women to test positive for coronavirus. The government's paved the way for international travel to begin again for millions of holidaymakers. From the 19th of July, people who've had both jabs won't have to quarantine on their return to England from amber list countries. Currently, that includes France, Spain, Portugal and Greece. It comes with conditions attached, though, and the destinations may impose their own rules. And as our consumer editor Chris Troy reports, there were warnings that UK border control may not be able to cope.
Luton Airport today. The summer season starts now, says the aviation industry, as the fully vaccinated will soon be exempt from quarantine on return. Here, passengers welcome the change many would have preferred sooner.
We've been too long locked down and want to get back to normality.
Most adults are going to be vaccinated by the end of, I think it's July or August, so, you know, I think you've just got to go and get it done. If you choose not to get it done, then you're going to miss out on doing the things that like going on holidays.
Our son works for an airline and he's been furloughed for 12 months and he's looking forward to working again. I think it'll make a big difference.
Fully vaccinated travellers from the UK won't isolate on return from more than 140 destinations on the amber list. Under 18s will also be quarantine exempt. It starts on the 19th of July, but you'll still need a pre-departure test when returning and one when you're back, adding to the cost of summer travel.
We won't be testing people for a moment longer than is required, but our primary responsibility, of course, is to protect people in the UK. We do not want to have a variant come in that we simply fail to pick up.
ITV News has an exclusive poll of 1,000 people. Most say they've already given up on a foreign trip this year, and more than half say this quarantine overhaul won't change their thinking. But those that still do want a summer getaway are likely to create a bookings surge.
Portugal today, one destination to benefit. Increased demand is likely to push up prices. Passengers will need jabs at least 14 days before travel to be quarantine exempt. But tonight, a new warning of airport queues.
It is inevitable, unfortunately, that there's going to be a significantly increased amount of queuing. We're simply not resourced for the range of checks that this is going to require. So whilst we're checking 100% every arriving passenger's COVID documentation, you can expect to wait for 3-4 times longer than you would do normally.
The holiday getaway is a symbol of personal freedom, but balancing that with public health means this remains an uncertain summer. Chris Troy, ITV News, Luton Airport.
And there's a full guide on what you need to know and do before travelling abroad this summer on our website. That's itv.com/news. But still to come on the ITV Evening News. How efforts to tackle record waiting lists are falling foul of self-isolation rules. And bringing a royal touch to the Rovers' return. The Queen visits Corrie.
To say that we're in the football final, the Queen's come and visited Coronation Street this week. Yeah. It's a pretty good week.
Those stories and more after the break. Welcome back. The number of patients waiting for NHS treatment in England has hit another alarming high. At the end of May, the figure rose to 5.3 million people, the highest since records began in August 2007. The only bright spot was the number of patients waiting over a year for treatment fell slightly to 336,000. The situation is being made worse by staff being forced to isolate. Our health editor Emily Morgan heard from patients and doctors in Coventry.
As celebratory moments go, this is understated. But then Nick has waited so long for a full hip replacement, it perhaps doesn't feel like anything to mark. Just one day after surgery, he told me what the last 18-month wait has been like.
Lack of movement,
My partner has to put my socks on, various things like that, you know, just boot shoes, can't tie laces, constant pain.
He's a typical patient on this orthopaedic ward at Coventry Hospital, where staff are trying to do 120% of their usual procedures. The trust is one of 12 accelerator sites where money has been allocated to tackle the backlog.
Pretty much always full.
Professor King says at the current pace it'll take 5 years to get back to normal.
It feels like the NHS functions at 95% most of the time, and when it gets to winter time we're at 99%. And so if you want the NHS to do another 20% work, you don't just need 20% more money, you need 20% more beds and 20% more nurses and doctors and therapists, etc. So money's obviously very important, but it's so much more than just the money.
Downstairs there are staff ready to operate on Mervyn, who was first diagnosed in February last year.
That's well over a year you've been waiting.
Yes, it is. It's an inconvenience more than anything. You have to be careful when you're chopping things, because your finger isn't where you necessarily think it's going to be.
The rise in COVID cases now will also impact how quickly the NHS can work. Health leaders warned it won't just be added patients that'll affect it.
One of the issues that challenges us at the moment is that staff have to isolate, for example, if their children are exposed to COVID and are in a bubble.
But that will affect your list, won't it?
It does affect our list, so we have to be much more agile and responsive.
Waiting times are going down, but COVID cases are not, so things could get worse before they get better. Emily Morgan, ITV News in Coventry.
The Chancellor's hinted that he may suspend the so-called triple lock for pensioners in this autumn's spending review. It's a guarantee of an increase in the state pension in line with average earnings, annual inflation, or 2.5%, whichever is higher. That could see it jump by 8% next April. Our political correspondent Libby Vina is in Westminster for us. Libby, this is tricky because it's a manifesto pledge, isn't it?
Yes, I think it is tricky and it could cause a bit of a row. Breaking promises isn't a good look, and this was a manifesto promise, as you say. Just look at the trouble the government's got into over the cuts to foreign aid. That said, though, the Chancellor has looked at the figures and he's clearly deeply worried as to how this formula is working as a result of what's happened to wages during the pandemic, going down and then surging. And the increase in pensions on this formula would be about 8%, costing taxpayers something like £3 billion. He clearly thinks that's not sustainable.
Triple lock is the government's policy. That said, I recognise people's concerns about some of the numbers that we're seeing. Those numbers at this point are speculation. We don't know what the final numbers will be. And when the decisions were made, what I can say to people is we will be guided by fairness. Fairness for pensioners, but also for taxpayers.
The fact that the uplift of £20 to universal credit is being axed, I think, makes it harder to justify a big increase in the state pension. Add to that the fact that the Chancellor has got to find money from somewhere. I think it is very likely that this formula is going to be changed.
Libby, thank you. The Prime Minister confirmed today that nearly all British troops have left Afghanistan, ending 2 decades of involvement in the war against the Taliban. The government says it will continue to support the Afghan government financially, but there are fears the withdrawal of NATO troops could lead to civil war. And the PM's been criticised for failing to promptly explain how a £15,000 holiday to the Caribbean was paid for, but was cleared of breaking the MP's code of conduct. The Standards watchdog said it was regrettable that details of the 2019 trip to Mustique hadn't been provided earlier. And organisers of the Tokyo Olympics have confirmed that the Games will take place without spectators amid rising coronavirus cases. A state of emergency has been declared for the Tokyo area as the authorities attempt to stem the spread of the Delta variant. And finally, the Queen met with soap royalty today to help celebrate 60 years of Coronation Street. Her Majesty was given a tour of the Weatherfield set and studios before meeting some of the stars who are almost as famous as she is. The visit included a brief stop inside the Rover's Return, but there was no walk on the famous cobbles, as our royal editor Chris Shipp reports.
At 60 years old, Coronation Street has reigned almost as long as the Queen herself, but they stopped filming today just for a moment to welcome a new customer at the Rover's return.
Don't walk on the cobble. No. Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Audrey and Rita should know, between them they've walked up and down this street for a mere 99 years.
There's quite a lot of work to do. And you do it every day.
And the Queen was told how this British institution kept filming despite the challenges of the past year.
Well, we've been sort of in lockdown. We've been in masks, rehearsing and everything. And it was like we were let out into sunshine. It was wonderful. Yeah.
And the chat down the pub when the Queen went inside was about lockdown and just how hard it's been.
Life has been very hard for people, hasn't it? It hasn't lockdown.
We managed to have the comedy with the drama.
Yes.
So that's been a really, really important thing over the lockdown as well.
Well, there wasn't much to laugh about,
I'm proud of the programme, that it's continued, that people have enjoyed the fact that they can still tune in and see the street and see the people they know.
But it's not been easy, has it? Because you've had to do it with all the restrictions and social distancing.
2 metres apart, which Sue finds very difficult.
Like any good soap, the Queen was told how Corrie reflects the ups and downs of life.
But there's some trouble, I'll be honest.
Well, I suppose life is a trouble, isn't it?
It is. I'm feeling slightly patriotic today in my red and white. So to say that we're in the football final, the Queen's come and visited Coronation Street this week. Yeah. It's a pretty good week.
The Queen might have avoided Corrie's cobbles today. She wasn't going to leave without the music. Chris Ship, ITV News, Coronation Street.
That's all for now. Julie's here with your news at 10. But for me and the rest of the team, enjoy your evening. Bye-bye.